Here's how I drew my main character Namid from my comic that I'm working on that is coming along very slowly. My plan for him was I wanted to have him have a very lackluster attitude because he deals with a lot of things in the comic that has him a tad jaded. In the world they're in, there are different fantastical species past regular humans, and this also applies to Namid. The simplest way to describe his character / species is a space whale. Not actually what they're called. I wanted that to reflect on his design, so I made sure to give him a number of nautical and space-related aspects. Given the focal points of his design and his purpose in the story, I gave him the name Namid because it means Star Dancer. He has a very ethereal aspect to him due to his heritage. Given his space and ocean themes, I researched a number of things related to the two. He's strongly associated with water, and so some of his inspirations are sailors, pirates, ships, galaxies, stars, suns, and moons. I wanted to make it so stars were something that were very clearly seen in his color scheme. The plan was to make it so that it would be reflected in his hair. His whale theme also very much influenced his design. As you can see, I decided to make it in the shape of a whale / fish. This is something that would reflect very clearly in his silhouette. Given his more difficult situation at the moment, his clothes are more rough and ragged. His clothing design is also a combination of different items that you'd find on a ship. The loose-fitting top was inspired a bit more by off-the-shoulder shirts, and given the situation, he's not really able to get properly fitting clothes, because he's constantly on the run. This is also why his clothing has many sharp edges. It's a result of being torn and damaged by time and conflicts. The clothing itself is in part made by ship sails, this mostly being the pants. And the nets around his hips are also cargo nets. Both of these two things were tangled together at the time he initially got them. And the binding on his waist is ropes, using them to keep the clothes bound together more tightly. It's, in essence, the main thing keeping everything together. I intended to keep his shape fairly linear, giving him a lot of square shapes with some curved and sharp edges, because his personality, while jaded, is still very reliable and sturdy. If someone needed him, he'd be there for them. Namid's family / people are very mystical and spiritual beings, having strong ties to the afterlife and the universe. This is why when I added accessories to his hair, I had little space-themed items as well as little bits of treasure. This is why he has little moons and stars, as well as little golden seashells and bangles and clips. They're things that are related to his character as well as his abilities. The large clips also helps him to restrain his hair and make it a lot easier for him to move. In addition to everything else, he also has a number of bandages because he's been in harm's way before. He's gotten a few injuries, and the bandages on his feet are in part due to some wounds, as well as partially protecting them while he's walking. Or running, if anything. Of course, I needed to make sure his color scheme stuck with the nautical and universal themes, choosing to stick to a lot of blues and purples. This was, in part, to stick with his themes, as well as to give him more regality. The space whales, not actual name, are considered a fairly regal and otherworldly lineage. This isn't to say that they're royalty, because they're not. They're highly respected due to their effects on the ecosystem, at least until recently. His accessories being gold is also to give him more contrast, as well as to stick with a more regal aesthetic. I had considered giving him more normal-ish eyes, but considering his moniker in the story is the Monster, I wanted to give them a little bit more of an inhumane aesthetic. After all, the eyes are considered the window to the soul, so something that's different would be immediately noticed. The design is inspired by whale eyes, with the large eyes as well as the light blue line that encircles the pupils. I chose to keep the sclera, being the whites of the eyes, dark, because typically those types of eyes are considered scary. He has very large irises, which are two-toned, red and purple. The eyes, for the most part, are a very key point in determining if another is similar to him. The whale and inhumane aspects are also why his eyes don't particularly have many highlights. His species, due to their spiritual natures, are imbued with a type of spirit magic, which reflects on his body. This is why his hair resembles that of a galaxy, and shifts and moves in a very floaty and smooth way when he walks. His hair actively demonstrates his connection to the cosmos. He specifically is able to shift between two forms, one being his humanoid version, and the other being his monstrous quote-unquote space whale form. While in the other form, his hair takes on the shape of light trails and a shifting nebula. It could be considered a combination of a comet/shooting star and a star cluster. There's also a midway point he can use when he's activated his magic, in which his hair takes on more the shape of a cloud of stars. He's, in essence, a very mystical creature. If certain circumstances hadn't caused them to go on the run, it would likely be impossible for a normal person to meet another like him. The intention of the background I came up with was to hint at the fact that Nammed is constantly being watched. It was a very simple sketch. I thought of giving him bubbles at first, but the eye idea felt more interesting. Having many eyes on him at any given point in time, I'd planned on having them at the back at first, but I think it's more impactful that the eyes are on the ground he walks on. Not even being able to take like a single step without some kind of scrutiny. They're just constantly watching. And that's it. This is how I drew my favorite main character, Nammed. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a good day. See you next time.